Welcome back to TRP Podcasts. Today, we're going to be diving into the world of startups.
Okay.
And exploring some of the key lessons from the lean startup.
Cool.
You know, so many people think you need like the perfect product and perfect timing and a stroke of luck to launch a successful startup.
Right.
But this deep dive is going to reveal like a much more practical and less intimidating approach.
I like it.
So imagine you've got this great idea for a business.
Mm-hmm.
You'd probably be pretty excited to like share it with the world, right?
Yeah, you'd think so.
Right.
But there's this misconception that you need to keep your startup idea a secret.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like someone's going to steal it.
Oh, like it's some kind of treasure.
Exactly.
But what's so interesting is that the lean startup suggests the opposite.
Huh, okay.
It says that execution, actually putting your idea into action, is way more important than the initial idea itself.
That's true. I mean, most people have tons of potentially viable startup ideas in their lifetime.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The real challenge is actually turning those ideas into something real.
Okay, so let's say you've got this idea you're passionate about.
Yeah.
What's the first step to go from that initial spark to a real business?
The lean startup introduces this concept called the build, measure, learn feedback loop.
The build, measure, learn feedback loop.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
It's all about creating something quickly, getting it in front of customers,
Okay.
seeing how they react, and then using that feedback to make improvements.
Okay,
So it's like a continuous cycle of building, measuring, and learning.
gotcha. So instead of spending months or even years perfecting a product before you ever show it to anybody,
Right.
you're constantly getting feedback from actual users and adapting along the way.
Exactly.
So it's almost like treating your whole business as one big experiment.
Precisely.
I like that.
And that leads us to the minimum viable product, or MVT.
Okay, the MVP.
Instead of aiming for a perfect product right away, you create a stripped-down version that's specifically designed for testing and learning.
So can you give us an example of what that might look like?
Sure.
What an MVP might actually look like?
Let's say you have an idea for a new food delivery app.
Okay, yeah.
Instead of building out this complex platform with all the bells and whistles,
Right.
you might just start with a really simple website,
Huh.
or even just a phone number where people can place orders.
Wow, so you're really just testing that core value proposition.
Yeah.
Delivering food to people's homes without getting bogged down in all the complexities of a full app.
Exactly. The goal is to validate your key assumptions as quickly and efficiently as possible.
That makes sense.
You want to know if people are actually willing to pay for your product or service
Right.
before you invest heavily in development.
That's so smart.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah, there's a quote from the book that comes to mind here.
Okay.
If you are embarrassed releasing the product to your potential customers, you are on the right track.
I love it.
Right. It really highlights that an MVP is about learning, not perfection.
It's about getting something out there, seeing how people actually use it.
I love the story of Dropbox and how they used a fake video as their MVP.
Oh, yeah, that's a great one.
They made this video showing off their easy file sharing tool, but the product didn't even exist yet.
And it worked.
And it worked. Their signups went through the roof.
It's a fantastic example of how a well-crafted MVP can give you really valuable insights before investing tons of money in development.
Yeah, it shows that sometimes just demonstrating that value proposition can be enough to generate interest and validate your idea.
For sure.
So we've talked about testing those assumptions, building MVPs. What's the next step in that lean startup journey?
Okay, so that's where engines of growth come in.
Okay, engines of growth.
The lean startup identifies 3 primary engines:
Okay.
sticky, viral, and paid. The key is to really focus on the one that aligns best with your product and market.
Okay, so let's break those down one by one.
Sure.
First up, sticky. What does that mean in the world of startups?
Okay, so the sticky engine is all about attracting customers and keeping them engaged for the long haul.
Okay.
So imagine a company like Netflix.
Okay.
They have a huge library of content,
Right.
personalized recommendations. They make it so easy to find something you love and binge watch for hours.
Yeah.
It's no wonder people rarely cancel their subscriptions.
Right. They've definitely mastered the art of keeping people glued to their screens.
They have.
And it makes sense that their key metric is churn rate.
Yeah.
The percentage of subscribers that leave each month,
Yep.
they want to keep that number as low as possible.
Absolutely.
Okay, so speaking of keeping users engaged, let's move on to viral.
Viral, yeah.
What's that all about?
This is all about leveraging the power of word of mouth and social sharing
Okay.
to spread your product like wildfire.
Okay, so this makes me think of companies like TikTok and Instagram.
Yeah, great examples.
They've leveraged this engine brilliantly,
Yeah.
encouraging sharing and interaction, making it really easy for users to spread the word,
Yep.
invite their friends.
Exactly.
It's amazing how quickly these platforms can grow.
It is.
It seems like everyone is on TikTok these
Right.
days. And a big part of that is that network effect.
Huge.
So the more people that join a platform, the more valuable it becomes, more attractive it is to others, and then you get that snowball effect.
Absolutely.
So it's not just about the app itself.
Right.
It's about the community that forms around it.
Exactly.
That's what makes it so sticky and hard for competitors to replicate.
You got it.
Okay, so viral growth sounds exciting, but I can imagine it's not for every business.
True.
What about paid?
Paid is pretty straightforward.
Okay.
It involves using advertising and other marketing channels
Okay.
to reach your target customer.
So companies like Amazon and Google, they're masters of this.
They are, yeah.
They invest heavily in targeted advertising, making sure their products and services are seen by the right people at the right time.
At the right time, that's key.
It seems like they're everywhere.
It's a very effective strategy, but it does require careful planning and execution.
Yeah, they're constantly tracking their ad spending,
Right.
measuring their return on investment.
Yep.
To make sure they're getting the most bang for their buck.
You got it. It's not just about throwing money at ads.
Right.
You have to use data to target the right audience with the right message.
So we've learned about the importance of experimentation,
Yes.
building MVPs, focusing on a specific engine of growth.
Absolutely.
But what happens when things don't go as planned?
That is a great question.
Yeah, what if your initial assumptions were wrong?
Okay.
Or the market shifts unexpectedly?
That's where pivot or persevere comes in.
Okay, pivot or persevere?
Every startup faces this decision. Do we stick with the plan?
Right.
Or do we change course?
Wow, that sounds like a make or break moment for an entrepreneur.
It can be, yeah.
How do you know when it's time to pivot?
The lean startup suggests a 3-step process.
Okay.
First, you establish a baseline
Okay.
using your MVP and get some real-world data.
Gotcha.
Next, you tune your MVP based on feedback from your early users.
Okay.
Make adjustments to try to improve it.
So you're essentially gathering data to see if your efforts are moving the needle in the right direction.
Exactly.
Then comes the crucial decision.
Right.
If your MVP isn't gaining traction, even after tuning,
Yeah.
it might be time to consider a pivot.
It might be time.
I can imagine that that's a tough decision for any entrepreneur
It is.
because it can feel like you're admitting defeat.
Right.
But as we're learning, pivoting can be a sign of strength and adaptability.
It's about having the courage to change direction based on what you've learned.
And it's important to remember, even pivoting doesn't mean starting from scratch.
Right. You're carrying forward all that valuable knowledge you gained from those initial experiments.
Right. It's like that saying.
What is it?
Know when to hold them.
Yeah.
Know when to fold them.
Exactly.
The lean startup emphasizes that pivots aren't failures.
No, they're not.
They're just course corrections based on what you learned about your customer and the market.
I love that.
And in fact, most successful startups have pivoted at some point. Can you give us some examples of companies that made that tough decision to pivot
Sure.
and actually came out on top?
One of the most famous examples is YouTube.
Okay, you could.
They originally launched as a video dating website.
What? No way.
Yeah,
That's so different from what YouTube is today.
it is.
How did they make such a dramatic shift?
They noticed that people were using the platform to share all kinds of videos, not just dating profiles.
Okay.
They recognized the trend
Yeah.
and pivoted to become a general video sharing platform.
What a great example of recognizing an opportunity and having the courage to change course.
It is.
Do you have any other examples of successful pivots?
Another great example is PayPal.
Okay.
They originally focused on enabling payments between Palm Pilots.
Palm Pilots. Wow.
Remember those?
Vaguely. I think I was still rocking my flip phone back then.
You and me both.
So how did they become this online payment giant that they are today?
They saw the rise of e-commerce
Okay.
and recognized that there was this need for a secure, reliable way to pay for things online.
Yeah, makes sense.
And so they pivoted their focus,
Mhm.
became the go-to solution for millions of online businesses.
Wow, these are inspiring examples of how pivoting, even in a drastic way,
Yeah,
can lead to incredible success.
it's true.
And it really reinforces that idea that pivoting isn't about giving up on your dream.
Right.
It's about being adaptable and finding the best way to achieve it.
It's about staying true to the core vision of solving a problem for your customers, even if the path changes along the way.
So much of what we've talked about revolves around gathering data,
Yes.
testing assumptions, making decisions based on evidence,
Right,
not
yeah.
just gut feelings.
It's data over emotion.
The lean startup calls this validated learning.
They do.
Can you explain why this is so important, not just for startups,
Yeah.
but maybe for our personal lives as well?
Yeah, I think validated learning is all about getting out of our own heads
Okay.
and seeking real-world feedback,
Yeah.
testing our assumptions, making sure our decisions are grounded in evidence.
So instead of assuming that we know what people want,
Yeah,
we actually go out and ask them,
exactly.
observe their behavior, collect data to support our hypotheses.
Be data-driven
Yeah.
and customer-centric.
Whether you're building a business or pursuing a personal goal,
Absolutely.
this approach seems particularly relevant in today's world,
It does.
where things change so rapidly.
Very rapidly.
Yeah, we need to constantly be learning and adapting to stay ahead of the curve.
We do. The pace of change is only accelerating.
Yeah.
And the companies and individuals who thrive will be those who embrace experimentation,
Yeah.
seek feedback, iterate quickly.
That's a powerful message.
It is.
But data is only useful if you know what to do with it.
True.
How do we make sure we're focusing on the right metrics?
Okay.
The ones that can actually help us make better decisions.
That's where actionable metrics come in.
Okay, actionable metrics.
So it's not enough to just collect data.
Right.
You need to be tracking the metrics that can actually guide your decisions,
Okay.
help you iterate effectively.
So instead of getting bogged down with vanity metrics
Right.
that make us feel good but don't actually tell us anything useful.
Exactly. We need to focus on the metrics that can actually help us improve.
So for example, if you're building a sticky product,
Okay.
you would want to track things like user engagement,
Yes.
customer retention,
Yeah.
how often people recommend your product to others.
Absolutely. Those are great examples.
Those metrics tell you how well you're doing at keeping your customers happy and coming back for more.
And if you're going for viral growth,
Yeah.
you'd want to track how many new users each existing user brings in.
Right.
See how quickly your user base is growing through word of mouth.
This has been such an insightful conversation so far.
It has been.
We've covered so much ground,
Yeah.
from the basics of the lean startup methodology to the importance of pivoting and tracking the right metrics.
It's been great.
I think what we've discussed today
Yeah.
has implications that go way beyond just the world of startups.
Way beyond. I completely agree.
It seems like these principles could be applied to any aspect of life where we're trying to achieve a goal.
Yep.
Launching a business.
Yep.
Writing a book.
Yeah.
Even just improving our fitness.
So true. You're exactly right.
In our final segment, I would love to explore how we can all benefit
Yeah.
from embracing this more experimental and data-driven approach to life.
So I'm excited to explore how these principles can apply to our personal lives.
I'm glad you brought that up. I think this is where the lean startup gets really empowering.
Yeah.
It's about bringing that same spirit of experimentation and learning from feedback into like all areas of our lives.
So it's about applying that build, measure, learn loop to our personal goals,
Yes.
our relationships,
Absolutely.
our careers.
All of it.
We set these big goals for ourselves.
Right.
But how often do we actually question our assumptions about what's going to make us happy or successful?
That's a great question.
How often do we say, is this really working?
Yeah.
What can I adjust based on what I'm learning?
Right. Are we just on autopilot?
Yeah. We might have this vision of our dream job.
But how do we know it's the right fit without actually trying it out in some way?
Exactly. You have to test it in the real world. Instead of spending years studying for a career we might end up hating.
Right.
What if we treated it like an experiment?
I like that.
Internships, volunteer work,
Yeah.
side projects,
That's a good idea.
all ways to get a taste of that career
Yeah.
and see if it actually aligns with our expectations.
Yeah. It's about gathering data, not just relying on what we think we want.
Absolutely.
And that goes for things like fitness goals too, right?
It
It does.
does.
Instead of committing to some crazy workout plan
Yeah.
that we saw online, why not just try out different types of exercise
Right.
until we find something we actually enjoy?
It's about finding what works for you,
Yes.
not just blindly following someone else's plan.
And even our relationships.
Ooh, interesting.
What if we approached dating like a series of experiments?
I like that.
So learning about ourselves,
Mhm.
what we value in a partner, and just adjusting our approach along the way.
So those first few dates that don't work out,
Yeah,
those aren't failures.
right.
They're valuable learning experiences.
Exactly. They give us data to figure out what we're looking for.
Exactly. It's a shift from seeking perfection to embracing this mindset of continuous learning and improvement.
It's about saying, okay, that didn't quite work out,
Yeah,
but what did I learn from it?
exactly.
How can I apply that to my next experiment?
I love that.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation.
It has.
It feels like the Lean Startup isn't just a business book.
Right.
It's a guide to living life with more intention,
Yes.
more curiosity,
Absolutely.
more willingness to just learn and adapt as we go.
I completely agree.
And I think the most important takeaway
What's that?
is that it's okay to be wrong.
It is.
In fact, being wrong can be incredibly valuable if we're open to learning from those experiences,
Yeah.
making adjustments.
So often it's that fear of failure that holds us back
Right.
from taking risks and pursuing our goals.
And the Lean Startup teaches us to embrace those so-called failures
Yeah.
as opportunities for growth.
I love that it's not about avoiding failure altogether. It's about failing smart,
Failing smart.
quickly,
Yeah.
cheaply,
Okay.
and in a way that gives us the most information to move forward.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the Lean Startup.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been such an insightful and inspiring conversation.
I agree, and I hope our listeners feel empowered to apply these principles in their own lives.
Absolutely. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us today.
Yes, thank you.
We hope you've gained some valuable insights from this deep dive into the Lean Startup.
We do.
Until next time, keep experimenting, keep learning, and keep iterating on your path to success.